I can finally say I've tasted the worm jerky that the one heat-seeker ship was named after. It wasn't as bad as I expected. Extra chewy. And this kind had a sharp flavor that changed wildly between bites, because that's the variety that Paint liked the most. She said, "It's best if you hold it between your teeth and run your tongue along it to get all the flavors. It's a full fan of sharpness values." Her lizardy face was excited as she demonstrated, looking like a kid playing with gummy candy. If that kid was also an orange-scaled lizard alien. I didn't bother trying to make sense of the phrasing. Full fan was probably something like rainbow. I just cleaned my mouth with a handful of cheesy crackers that I wasn't going to subject everyone else to, and waited for my turn. We had a day to burn while waiting for our next delivery client to meet us, and a visit to the space station's market had ended with half the crew picking items of their own species' origins to share with the rest. Eggskin the medic was on hand just in case. Oh boy, it was my turn next. "What omnivore nonsense have you come up with?" Mur asked, folding his blue-black tentacles sternly. "It had better not involve that infant food liquid." "Nope, no dairy products," I said, picking up the heavy box under my chair. Eggskin tapped a claw against their tablet full of biological info. "I've ruled out anything likely to cause digestive distress, and that definitely counts." "Yes, no pizza today, more's the pity." I set the box on the table. This should actually be fun. Marble soda. I opened the top and began passing them out. "Marble what?" asked Blip, frills waving curiously. "Is this a drink?" G wanted to know. He angled his antennae into a look of suspicion. Trilly held a similar expression across the table. "It's a fun drink," I said. "There's a special trick to opening it. The soda itself isn't that special. The most popular brand is named after a mispronunciation of a common flavor in another language, though they make a bunch of other flavors too. Anyways, it's a bubbly drink with a fruit flavor. This one's strawberry, and Eggskin says it's safe enough to try." Eggskin nodded their scaly head. "I wouldn't recommend large quantities, but yes, the bubbles are carbon dioxide and the fruit is in trace amounts." "I like fruit," Paint said bravely, clutching the bottle. "How do we open it?" "Right. Everybody watch me. First you peel off the plastic wrap." I demonstrated, exposing the plastic contraption that had something of a learning curve even among my own people. "Now this bit is in two parts. You have to pop the centerpiece out, 'cause that's the part you actually need, and this part you set aside. It just keeps the bottle from opening early." I separated the two and held them up. Everyone was watching carefully. "Good," I continued. "I can help with that if you need. Once you have this part, though, you just place it against the top. Give it some pressure and it pops the marble down into the bottle." With a flourish, I leaned a palm onto the little plastic doohickey until the marble separated with a satisfying pop. Paint made a quiet ooh noise while Blop flapped his frills in surprise. "Now you have to make sure the marble doesn't just roll back to block the opening when you drink it," I said. "These dents will catch it. You just have to hold it at the right angle. Like this." I took a sip and the marble stayed where it was supposed to. When I put it down, the air was full of the crinkling of plastic as my alien co-workers got to work on the wrapping. Some had an easier time than others. "Oh, you're supposed to rip it along the tiny holes," Paint said, having already sliced it off with a claw. "I didn't see that." "This is not meant for tentacles," Mur griped. He tried twisting it, but no luck. "Here, let me." I put out a hand ready to remove the wrap quickly and help the others. Blip and Blop should be fine, but the mesmers with their praying mantis pincher arms might find this awkward. They had those tiny little wrist fingers, but identical pops sounded from opposite sides of the table. I turned to find G and Trilly each holding a bottle with one pincher. They'd used the other to stab through the top, not bothering to remove the plastic wrap first. "Well, that's one way to do it," I said. G said, "Seemed faster." He peeled off the wrapping now with one deft pincher tip while Trilly simply wrenched hers away. A thunk sounded as Blip misjudged the angle and tipped her bottle over instead of opening it. Next to her, Blop was having trouble finding a finger small enough to separate the plastic bits. I hurried to unwrap Mur's drink and help. Paint had a little difficulty getting enough leverage to press down on the top, but Eggskin figured it out and gave her a hand, standing on the seat and using their body weight. One way or another, everybody got their bottles open. They tried it, and everybody hated it. "If the bubbles are regular air, why do they taste so bad?" Blip wanted to know. "I think it's the fruit flavor that's tangy," Blop said. Jay hissed quietly. "You mean fruit's not supposed to taste rancid?" "It's a drink that fights back, and I can respect that," Trilly declared. "But this is not a battle I'm interested in fighting." Mur took a sip and shuddered, sending rippling tentacles in all directions. "Ugh, it tastes like static shock and the wrong part of a plant." "That's a pity," I said. "It's pretty good as far as I'm concerned." Unexpectedly, Paint said, "I like it." It kind of bites you at first, but then it reminds me of an overripe galaxy fruit. And the bottle is interesting. Glad to hear it, I said. So everybody hated it except for Paint. And Eggskin probably, who didn't make any loud declarations, but they did drink the whole thing. I call that a win. Well, that was a fascinating disaster, G said, shoving his bottle towards the middle of the table. On to my turn. Murr grumbled something that sounded like, oh, great. He'd already dumped his soda down the sink and kept the bottle as a fidget toy, sticking a thin tentacle in and batting the marble around. I sipped my own and waited to see what G would bring out. I considered myself lucky to be on the omnivorous side of things. Theoretically, anything he came up with should be fine. But of course, theory only goes so far. Everyone here is okayed for animal-based nutrition, G said, setting down an opaque bag. So everyone ought to enjoy this one, except for Trilly, who has no taste. Trilly did the mesmer equivalent of sticking her tongue out at him, which involved a disturbing configuration of mandibles. Jay opened the bag and began removing little sealed tubs. I give you fur squeak brains with the best vitamin sauce. I sank down in my seat, still holding the bottle and not eager to grab a sample of brains. Even when Eggskin clarified that the sauce was vitamin C and ought to taste like citrus, it didn't sound particularly appealing. G was proud of it, though. Apparently this was the best food in the universe, favored by all the best chefs, of his species anyway, and there was nothing anyone could say to ruin his enjoyment of it, even if everyone else present was as uncultured as Trilly. It occurred to me that I could probably ruin his meal by telling him about his resemblance to the fried crickets that were easy to find back home, but I decided against it. I just drank my marble soda and enjoyed watching Trilly argue with him instead.